And yet the left has jettisoned that approach. The rule of law doesn't matter anymore. The Constitution apparently doesn't matter to Joe Biden anymore. I mean, he's the one that's directing the vast censorship enterprise. We know that it's grown so fast, they had to develop a new bureaucratic structure to manage it. It is time we build a wall of separation between tech and state to protect our First Amendment rights. The first brick of that wall was laid on July 4th when we got that preliminary injunction. And we're going to keep fighting to build that wall as we move into an election cycle. It's more important now, more than ever. It's Orwellian what's going on right now.
For sure.
I think George Orwell on his most creative day couldn't have contrived the vast censorship enterprise that is permeating big tech today. And it's not permeating big tech organically to big tech. It's at the demand of the federal government.
Right.
From the very top levels of the White House across a spectrum of bureaucratic agencies. Thank you all for covering this and for continuing to cover this. This is the most important First Amendment suit in this nation's history. And that's exactly what the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals most recently said. And let's put that in context for just a minute. In 1789, the second president of the United States, John Adams, and the Federalists passed a bill through Congress, the Alien and Sedition Act, designed to imprison anyone that questioned the president's foreign policy. That was bad. But the Fifth Circuit says what's going on here is worse. There is no enabling legislation. The people's elected representatives had no say in this vast censorship enterprise, and everyone who uses big tech has suffered. Anyone who was deprived of information is now a victim of the censorship campaign from the federal government.
That's crazy, dude.
Were you, because I mean, I think that's the biggest key, right? Like people didn't understand, like they think that it's protected, you know, it's okay for these big tech platforms to do this on their own. If it was on their own, okay, cool.
That's their argument, right?
That's the argument.
It's a private business.
But that's not the case. Like that, and it's
no, that is the case, but that's not what's happening.
Right. Like, and it's been discovered that, like, no, like our own federal government and actors inside of our own government are controlling these different figures at all of these platforms.
Exactly.
To silence, to censor, and to prop the narrative however they see fit, and like, it's dangerous.
Yeah, and this isn't just the three of us talking about this and imagining this is happening. We have evidence. I mean, a lawsuit that my predecessor, Eric Schmidt, launched that we pushed forward and continued with, we've scratched the surface. Preliminary discovery to go get a preliminary injunction against the federal government to protect our First Amendment rights. 20,000 pages of documents, numerous depositions. We put that evidence on in court on May 26th and when we filed our motion for preliminary injunction. And the court believed the evidence. And that's why we were able to get that preliminary injunction on the 4th of July in celebration of this nation's independence. Now, the DOJ is incensed by this. They want to be able to silence any voice in opposition to the government.
Didn't they file the appeal? Like, isn't that a red flag right there, right? Like,
they're committed to the vast censorship enterprise.
Man.
So then we went up to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. We won there as well. At the end of the day, we're headed for the highest court in the land, United States Supreme Court. I think 100 years from now, kids in constitutional law class in law school will crack open the con law book and we'll be reading the case of Missouri v. Biden and think about the fight for freedom we made at this space, at this time, in this state.
I think we're in a different, I actually agree with that. I think what's happening right now in society, both in the political realm and the cultural realm, is legitimately one of the most pivotal and historic times that this country will face. And I know people say that, right? They say it every election cycle. And, they said that in the 90s, they said it in the 80s, they said it in the 70s. But I actually think right now is really that way. And if we don't bring awareness to what's actually happening, because they've done a really good job at keeping everyone sort of ignorant to the level of what's actually happening, right? They have, like you were saying, DJ, they have convinced people of this opinion that, hey, that's a private company. They can do whatever they want, but they've left out the truth, which is that we have 3-letter agencies and government officials literally calling and sending emails and threatening and saying, hey, this person needs to be deplatformed. These people need to be censored. This is what needs to happen. And that's what's been happening since, I actually think and you would probably know better than me, but I think this has been going on for a very long time. And I think where people really started to raise their eyebrows was during the 2020 situation with COVID and the censorship. And I think people started to pay attention like, oh, this is not right.
Yeah.
Because I remember in 2015, I made a critical post on Facebook about Hillary Clinton.
As you should.
Yeah. And Hillary, and I got destroyed by like 10,000 comments in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was like, how? Because at the time I didn't have a following like I have now. I was like, how did this happen? And what I found out was that these were actually just all fake accounts that that organization, that social media platform owned. And they had put them onto me to silence me. And so the censorship is not just the government reaching out. There's all kinds of different ways that they're doing it. They use bots to prop up narratives that they want. They use bots to attack people that they don't want speaking. They do things like this, and you hear them say this all the time. It's freedom of speech, but not freedom of reach. Okay, so they think that they're justified to cut your traffic if they don't agree with what you're saying, which is the same as any other form of censorship. You know, are we getting that far when we are suing these people with that?
Yeah, a couple points. Number one, I don't think what you're saying is hyperbole because it's actually happening, like you said, and it goes beyond just targeting specific posts. The example that you gave, which I think is really salient, is that and this is what the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals found as well. Again, this is in a judicial opinion. This isn't just Andrew Bailey positing this. This has been proven in court. The terms of service on these big tech platforms, the algorithms were manipulated at the demand of the federal government. So when you had that attack from the big tech bots, essentially, that's because the algorithm was changed to satisfy federal officials' demands in order to discredit a narrative that they disagree with.
That's insane, dude.
That's also censorship.
Yeah.
I would also point out that, and I think you guys established this point at the onset here, the harm is ongoing. It's not like, okay, this one post was taken down or there's this period in time and we're past it now. That's not true at all.
Yeah.
Because individuals are now self-censoring to avoid the vast censorship enterprise. How many people don't want to talk about Donald Trump, don't want to talk about election integrity, don't want to talk about COVID because they're afraid that big tech's going to de-platform, de-emphasize, or they will be attacked?
Well, they do that. That's real stuff. Like people are giving DJ and I saying, "Oh, you're censoring." No, they have things in the first 30 seconds of YouTube where if you say a curse word, they automatically turn your page to yellow and you get no traffic on the episode. So you guys that criticize us, you should ask yourself, would you like the message to be out there or would you like it not to be out there?
Because you only get 3 strikes.
Yeah.
And then you're off the platform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if you cuss within the first 7, like it's insane
Bro,
stuff,
or
man.
it's the same thing though. It's what Andrew's saying. If you talk about COVID, if you talk about election, if you talk about any of these things that are controversial, Trump, right? We get clicked into yellow or put an age restriction
Immediately.
Yes.
Immediately.
Every single time. And by the way, whenever they asked us to come on the platform, they guaranteed us that would never happen. Because we were just an audio show for many, many years. We had a huge audio show, and we've just started on YouTube. And they told us, "Oh, we're getting away from that. We're not moving in that direction anymore. You're going to be safe on this platform." And to be completely honest, it's not been that way.
No.
Yeah.
In fact, it's getting
been the
increasingly
opposite.
worse. Too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that, if I may, I think the censorship enterprise is actually counterproductive. People don't trust the government, don't trust the information if they think they're only getting one side. The whole purpose behind the First Amendment right to free speech is just to guarantee a free, fair, and open marketplace of ideas where those ideas can compete and we can invite dissenting voices and come to the conclusion of what is and isn't truthful based on our debate, not based on government censorship. The government censorship is counterproductive to their ultimate aim. Now, it's harming us in the short term.
Yeah.
But in the long term, it's counterproductive. Fewer people trust what the government's saying. Fewer people trust what they're hearing and seeing for the very reason that we know we're being censored.
It's like a spiral that they're not even aware they're in.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, well, they don't trust us, so we got to make sure they don't hear this other stuff. So we censor this stuff. Then they don't trust us some more. So then they censor more, and it just continues to feed the beast, right?
Well, that's the thing because
I don't think the trust is coming back for a long time.
No. It's going to be a hard time for our government to regain the trust of its citizens. And the thing, and well, one, I mean, there's things that's helping improve that, like the work that you're doing, like the work that Eric Schmidt's doing. You know, but the thing is, it's like, you know, what happened to us just being able to be in a room, have disagreements, have open dialogues, and say, you know, if there was a dumb idea that came up, okay, cool, yeah, bro, that's just a dumb idea. Like, no, stop, right? But that's not the world we're living in. What we're living in now, and that's what we talk about on the show all the time, is these people think that they have the birthright to have the authority over what we can say, what we should think, what we should buy, who we should support, what we should believe. you know, and they genuinely believe that they have that power over us. And I believe their days are coming. I mean, I think
didn't we have a revolution to get away from that? I mean, wasn't that
Yes.
the whole point of the
Yeah.
United States of America was to end authoritarianism?
Yeah.
And yet we're slouching towards authoritarianism. And here's the problem I've got. We used to elevate the rules of the game above the players and the outcomes. And yet the left has jettisoned that approach. The rule of law doesn't matter anymore. The Constitution apparently doesn't matter to Joe Biden anymore. I mean, he's the one that's directing the vast censorship enterprise. We know that it's grown so fast, they had to develop a new bureaucratic structure to manage it. It is time we build a wall of separation between tech and state to protect our First Amendment rights. The first brick of that wall was laid on July 4th when we got that preliminary injunction. And we're going to keep fighting to build that wall as we move into an election cycle. It's more important now, more than ever.